Hey, welcome to the ADHD podcast, everybody. We're happy to have you here. And we're especially excited to have a guest on today. We're giving Tony the week off because I have my friend Lindsey Harris here. Welcome to the podcast,
Hi,
Lindsey.
Julie.
We're very happy to have her.
Super happy to be here.
Lindsey and I actually met, we were in the same church congregation neighborhood, and we especially strengthened our relationship through pickleball, a lot of pickleball together.
Yes, we're pickleball buddies.
The reason Lindsey's on here today is she is actually a school counselor. Me and Tony both were diagnosed as adults, so that's been our experience. I think Tony primarily, if not 100%, only works with adults in his private practice as a therapist. I primarily speak about mental health to adults. We do the adult thing. Because of that, we've had a lot of listeners give feedback on how to parent children effectively with ADHD, which I do think is a really important part of the conversation. While it's not our main theme of the podcast, I think it would be a missed opportunity to not bring in experts that know more about this than we do and that are working daily at that level with kids. I think it'll also inform our conversation with how to handle it as adults as well. I think just knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better all around.
Totally.
There's truth about kids. We're just big little kids.
We're parenting ourselves sometimes.
Exactly. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited, first of all, because she brought me this drink. So that's great. Caffeine can help with ADHD. It turns out it's a thing. I'm excited to have her here. I trust her a lot as a human being and as a fellow mother that I know we both really try hard as parents to implement the things we've learned in the mental health field.
So many conversations
In our home, so many conversations and frustrations and trying to be the kind of parent we want to be. So having said all that, I am so grateful you're here to talk to us about ADHD with kids and how that can look in the homes.
Yeah. As a school counselor, a lot of times people say, what do you do as a school counselor? Like sometimes parents are a little apprehensive about having their kids meet with the school counselor. Some are like, please, anything will help, which love both. School counselors are not long-term therapists. So we're in a school setting to offer short-term counseling. That's within the year, right? Mostly because schools are not set up to offer those kinds of resources. We just don't have the time and resources. I have 509 kids at my school. I can't offer long-term therapy. So a lot of the times I work with school kids and I work with them over a school year. And if things are needing more, if they just need more, then I refer them to an outside resource. And they do therapy on top of counseling. My goal is to help kids and families, their parents too, because parents are the biggest part of the equation, be successful. What does successful mean? Does that mean just getting good grades? No, it does not mean that. So for a lot of kids, it is, how can we make sure you are happy? How can we make sure you are growing and thriving? How can we make sure you are social and you're getting good, healthy connections in your life? Self-esteem, self-concept, executive functions with anxiety, ADHD. Those are two of my top things that I work with kids on.
Okay.
And I've been at the junior high level. Right now I'm at an elementary school. And believe it or not, like the age of the child, you would think younger kids don't need as much help. They absolutely do. And they struggle with the same things the older kids do. It just looks different. So I get a wide variety. I love working with kids so much. ADHD is something I get so many questions from parents about. So
You're our girl.
I'm happy to talk about it. I also have personal experience with one of my kids. I do not have ADHD, but I have learned a lot more personally with one of my kids.
Cool. You're definitely the expert here on that with kids. First of all, what advice do you have for a parent that is trying to parent in the best healthy way if they have a child with ADHD?
I teach parenting classes in our community. The district puts them on. Nebo School District does that. So I work with parents too. Love it. I like to remind ourselves that childhood is just one big science lab. The purpose of parenting is to prepare our children for the adult world, not to make sure that they are always okay, not to make sure that they do things perfectly. Childhood is a time to experiment on our skills and see what works so that we can live a successful, fulfilling life, whatever that means to you. This might take a lot of trial and error, and that is okay. You might try something and it does not work for your kid. That is okay. But it's an experiment. It's a lab. You can try things. You have the space and time to do that. You don't have to beat yourself up over it. It's just time to try things out and see what works for your child. One thing that I try to remind myself also is I value my relationship with my child over the results of those experiments. So they may or may not take things from, school, elementary school, high school. Things may fade from the memory, but one thing they keep forever is their relationship with you. Or they don't keep it, but that's a different conversation.
Trying to avoid.
We're trying to avoid that. So if the eventual goal is I want my child and I to have a good relationship, I want to support them through their whole life, and I want to give them skills to support them while they're on their own as an adult, let's view this as a lab. Experimentation. We're going to work together, but relationship over results. That's one thing I've kind of had lots of conversations about. The other part is, as a parent, I can't emphasize this enough. You have to take care of yourself, which I'm sure every parent is told that, but we have to remember it.
Especially when you're dealing with a child that has not the mainstream, learning style, thinking style, a lot of stimulus, possible issues. There's a lot there we could go into. And I say that as someone who is diagnosed with ADHD.
Right.
If you want to be able to exercise that extra patience and creativity to meet them where they're at, no one's going to take care of you but you.
Right.
And you have to take that seriously so that you can be the best for them.
It takes a lot of energy to be curious, supportive.
It does.
Patient.
It's draining.
For yourself as a parent, I have to be curious about why I'm reacting certain ways, but also curious about my child.
For sure.
Not in a judgmental way, but a truly curious way. Some things that have helped for me is recovery time for both me and my child, which is not a timeout. It's just like okay, we came home from school. I know you're wound up. Go outside for 10 minutes. Do nothing. That's what I want you to do. And he decompresses. He wanders around. He pokes at stuff. He comes in so much happier. I get recovery time. I need my recovery time. For me, that looks like pickleball with our pickleball group. Hobbies, releases. If I model that for me, the quickest way for kids to learn is just by watching us. Unfortunately, sometimes.
Or what we say sometimes that comes out of our mouth when we stub our toe.
Yeah. So taking care of that. Yeah. Sometimes, especially with my oldest, where I thought, what am I doing wrong? I am not getting through to you.
And is your oldest the one that you suspect the ADHD?
I suspect inattentive presenting. We're not to the point where we're thinking of getting a diagnosis or anything, because I've done some interventions and things are going really well. But I did beat myself up a lot about it, or sometimes I still do. So my husband and I have talked about this, and I've talked about this with colleagues, but this idea of if someone couldn't see super well without needing glasses, is that my fault as a parent? It's just a different way of functioning, but they can still see with glasses. So let's get them the glasses. That's not my fault that they require glasses.
I can't imagine as a kid, whether it's interventions, medication, whatever it is. For me, first of all, getting the knowledge, the awareness of a diagnosis was upping the prescription to be able to see things clearly.
Yeah.
And then for me, taking medication, I remember taking Adderall for the first time. I don't know a better analogy than putting on glasses that are your prescription and you had no idea.
This is what the world looks like.
And even when someone would say, medication can help, it's hard to even understand, how can medication help focus? That is such an ambiguous idea to me.
Right.
And then you do it, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm less emotionally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's different ways that medication can work, but Adderall specifically is an upper. Yeah. And so I would think it would heighten my anxiety or something.
Right.
But for me, with someone with ADHD, it actually is very calming for me because it helps me focus.
Yeah. A lot of adults with ADHD, undiagnosed, have unintentionally self-medicated by drinking lots of caffeine and
I did,
drinks
and I'm working on it, but
and
yes,
my
because it
drink
makes me feel so good.
right here, I cannot drink caffeine. Yes.
Does it make you jitter?
I get headaches and I
Oh,
can't sleep at night if I
Yes.
drink it past noon
Okay.
at all.
You hear that from everyone that, caffeine gives you a little boost and stuff, but I didn't realize there's a focusing
It's a
element there. It's a
stimulant.
stimulant. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm like, I know what to do. I can do
Yeah.
this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love both those big points. I just want to revisit them
Yeah.
real quick, which is childhood is meant to be a lab and to take care of you. I think those are the big takeaways I heard from advice you'd give parents. As far as helping a parent manage their own emotions, I would assume that kind of goes back to that self-care piece you were just talking
That's a
about.
big
Is there
part of it.
anything you'd add to that?
Well,
How parents can manage their own emotions as they deal with a kid with ADHD?
yeah, I personally believe that emotional self-regulation is the foundation for everything else with mental emotional health. Modeling emotional regulation is huge. Now, are we always good at regulating our own emotions? No, we are not. We try, but sometimes we haven't been raised in homes where that was a thing that was modeled for us. So we're trying.
Absolutely.
We're trying.
Yes.
If there's something you feel like you struggle with, for me, with a bunch of young toddlers when they were all pretty young, I thought I had anger management issues. I would freak out and I was like, I am a terrible mother. But what I did was I found some awesome online courses that were free. They're everywhere if you look for them, and worked on my anger management, like my regulation. It turns out I didn't have anger management issues. I was under supported and I didn't know how to read my own body's cues. I learned some really good things there. Therapy is a great thing. There's awesome online options. No.
BetterHelp.com. I know that that's been a sponsor of some of Tony's podcasts, specifically is BetterHelp.com, and those types of resources. It's so much more accessible now.
It's becoming more available. And the more you learn for yourself, the more you can provide to your children. I teach in parenting courses and with students of all ages, learning to recognize your emotions, how they feel in your body, so that you can begin to understand, okay, I'm becoming overstimulated, I'm getting frustrated. That way, you know, I need to take a break to relieve pressure before I blow.
Yeah, it's not a shock when you blow. You're
Right.
like, oh, I saw this coming, so I can prevent
you
it.
can see the signs.
Instead of just, I blow up and now I'm so mad at myself that I blew up, right?
Which comes with learning to check in with yourself. For me, when I was first learning this stuff, I would set a timer on my phone. It was that bad where I was so depleted and exhausted as a young mom. I set a timer for every hour for a while and I said, how am I feeling right now? What is my body feeling like? That's it. Took me 10 seconds.
Interesting.
Just so I could practice it.
Yeah. Because it probably became routine that you just became a more self-reflective person in general, right?
Yeah.
Like muscle memory.
And I found out that noises, lots of noise and screaming, turns out it ratchets up my anxiety. Or not getting outside, being able to identify emotions, figure out how you feel them in your body, and then have conversations about that with your kids. That's the bedrock
I love
of
that.
mental emotional health.
Emotional regulation.
Yeah.
That's so true. I'm just going through and thinking of all
This helps
the
with
mental diagnoses. I know.
anxiety,
Yeah.
depression. This helps with ADHD. It helps with, I mean, you name it. Even going through really hard things, it helps with resilience, with
I think about narcissistic tendencies. I'm going through everything and
it all
comes back to self-awareness and emotional regulation.
Yeah. Just being able to understand yourself, you know.
And obviously to put forth the effort. We could go to therapy all day and learn all things. And if we don't
practice.
It takes practice. Like the timer. That's a great actionable tool of, I'm going to put this into practice. Because if you know it, if you don't apply it, doesn't really get you anywhere usually.
And it helps you get to the point where I know I'm getting more flustered or nervous or whatever. I'm going to go on a quick walk around the block, or I'm going to get a snack because that's instant dopamine, right?
Yep.
So those are some things you can do as a parent, as a person, as someone in a relationship, any relationship,
Human being.
being a person. Some things to help with that with your kids, especially with ADHD, helping kids first recognize their emotions and self-awareness, then offering them lots of breaks right? Like we're not going to let them give up on a task, but we can put into chunks or set little timers.
Having little
Mhm.
chunks and
Yeah.
deadlines, that's how I thrive.
Mhm.
If it's a really big idea type thing, oh,
Make it manageable.
yes,
And for younger
manageable.
kids,
Oh,
they're like itty bitty.
right. You think we
Right?
struggle as adults, right?
I know.
Yes. Just put on that one sock.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, great. You got your socks on. What's the next step?
Yeah.
Right?
Or a sock on.
One
Now
sock
the other
on.
foot.
Yeah.
We're rocking and
You
rolling.
did it. You did it once. You can do it again, right?
Yeah.
At our house and at my school, we call it recovery time. We don't really do timeouts, but it's just kind of like, okay, here's your time to go calm down.
Mhm.
You have a place at your home or school or wherever where you
Yep.
can be calm.
We have like a soft corner right over there for that exact reason.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have a soft pillow. If you look over there,
Sensory.
there's a jar with fidget toys
Yep.
because of a therapist that helped us
You
understand that
just need a place to
just
be
need a place to
sometimes.
be. A safe place that's comfy. There's no need for punishment. It's a place to decompress.
Doesn't need to be fancy.
No,
Just a
look at
place
that on the floor.
place to be. Nice, cozy, awesome.
Little corner.
I've listened to some of your other episodes. They're awesome. So this may be repeating, but consistent routines, they know what to expect. Building habits, is really the goal here. I think I can't overemphasize getting proper sleep and healthy diet.
Okay.
I
Talk to me about that.
I mean,
Wait, you're saying for the ADHD kid? I mean,
well,
everybody
everyone,
needs
but
it.
especially kids.
Okay, talk to me about that.
I don't think we realize how much our brains need sleep.
Mm.
We only realize it when we haven't gotten enough sleep. But as adults, we can see that easier in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can't always see that, and they don't like to sleep like adults do. Like, I love taking a nap. Kids don't like to take naps.
Do kids with ADHD tend to need more sleep than the average kid or sleep longer?
I've looked into that actually because one of my kids was just a heavy sleeper as a kid. He still took naps through kindergarten. When he does not get enough sleep, oh man, like he gets his crazy eyes. That's what we call them at home. He gets his crazy eyes, and there's just like the impulse control.
Yes.
It's shot.
Yeah, it's all over.
It just is something else. I didn't find any ties to it, but there is a correlation. High energy kids tend to just need more reboot time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that it's all ADHD kids need more sleep.
Right.
They just tend to be more active or their brains move quicker. Lots of sleep is good. Reward systems are something I do a bunch with ADHD kids. Finding motivators is a tricky business, isn't it, as a parent?
Yes.
Like the things that your kids want to work towards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just treats. It's not just toys.
Oh, I've used money.
Yeah, it can be money.
Yeah.
It could be attention. It could be adult attention versus peer attention. It could be tangibles. It could be
stickers,
praise.
Yeah.
It could be, there's
like physical touch,
it
even
could
just
be
like
physical
cuddle.
touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of could tie into love languages a little bit, but
Okay.
what motivates them? For one of my kids, he does not like sugar a whole lot, but he loves recognition. So when he works hard towards something, which goal setting is another executive function, we have this list on our fridge. Spelling is hard for him.
Is this our kid that the ADHD
Yeah,
maybe?
he struggles with writing and spelling. He likes money. He likes to save money, not spend money. He does not like treats. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to just be giving him like $10 bills all the time,
Yeah.
So what I did was every time you get 10 out of 10, I'm going to put the spelling test on the fridge. And he loved it. So he did it again. And we have a list. You were over at our house, but there was like 12 on there. And every time his friends come over, they say, whoa, you got a lot of 10 out of 10s. And he's like, yeah, spelling's easy for me. I'm like, oh, I have sat through spelling practice with you, but he worked hard for it.
Yes,
he got
he
his
did.
recognition. And when he gets a 12 out of 10 for the challenge word, he gets $1.
Shut the front door.
I will do it. I'm doing it.
Oh, 100% give $1.
Find that thing that's important to your child. It does not have to be treats.
Yes. Oh, this is so good for me personally as a parent. I'm so glad you're here. Any advice that we haven't covered as far as helping your child have a healthy sense of self? That's what I worry about. I worry about, and that I've seen in my own self as a struggle of just that whole idea. I know for me, it's been how many times in my life have I heard that I'm either a lot or too much?
Yeah.
Those are the phrases that I identify with. And I think about, I myself have said that about my child, not to them, but in conversations with friends like you and stuff like that. And there's a place for being able to vent and talk, and that's fine. But certainly that's an idea out there about kids with ADHD. They're a lot. Sometimes they feel a bit much. How do we help them make sure they have a good...
It is a lot to parent or teach or whatever a student with ADHD if there's not a good relationship built there. When I first start working with students with ADHD, I do not bring up ADHD because they're already aware they're in my office because of that. And I don't want them to feel like they're in trouble for it. It's a big part of their life.
Yeah. And it's always going to be.
And it will always be that way. And they already get so much negative attention for it. The comorbidity with anxiety, depression, other behavioral issues is so high. They don't need more from me driving them into the ground. So what I focus on first is what makes you special? What are some of your strengths? Not related to ADHD. I just want to know what they like about themselves. Because oftentimes they come in and they say, I'm not good at school. I'm the bad kid. No one wants to play with me. I'm always getting in trouble. I'm always teasing my sister, which is disheartening, you know? Focusing on strengths. I know that's so hard when we're trying to correct behavior. But again, foundation, relationship over results first.
Well, and don't you think about, as an adult, personally, I'm thinking about in my own professional relationships where things have gone sour or I've felt discouraged is often I'm getting so much criticism. But if someone will just give me a little bit of, you're really good at this, then I can handle the correction so much easier because I know I'm valued and I know where my value is, and it's just tweaking. It's not an overall, all I get is negativity. It's hard to stay motivated with that.
With my students I work with, I really want to focus on two things: confidence and competence. Because you can't just have someone tell you good things about yourself.
Yeah.
That's not going to change. It's not going to help you grow.
No. You do need to
you
progress.
can't grow if you don't have confidence, right? So you have to have confidence and competence. You have to have the skills and self-knowledge that you can do it.
It's the same as the two words that I often talk about, which is worth and value. Worth is unchanging, but you can bring extra value to a situation. I kind of see that as the same. Worth is the confidence, competence is the value you bring to it. So for me as a speaker, when I step on a stage, my worth is not unchanging depending on how I do. It just is.
Your relationship with yourself is not
and my relationship with my deity and the way that all works for me of believing where I come from, who I am, that I'm important just breathing and being a human being, and that I believe that for everyone. When that's in check, I just know my worth isn't on the table. However, are there times when I bring greater value because I prepared better, because I've done a lot of training, because I've taken advice and applied it? Then I'm bringing greater value to the situation. And that's exciting, but that's outside of myself. That's outside of my worth. With kids, that's helping me frame that the confidence is the worth piece. And I see the competence as the value piece. I can't just get up on stage and be a good speaker and be like, I'm of great worth.
So
people
thanks for booking me.
Yeah, thank you, because I know my worth. No one's going to pay me money to do that.
Offer something.
Yeah. And so for a kid to just be like, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, and not give them the tools to progress, which I think every human wants that, to be able to bring even more value to situations, you're doing them such a favor.
Well, I think kids think that ADHD is a bad thing.
When we grew up thinking it
was,
right?
And there may be varying opinions on this, but I don't believe that telling a kid something that is built into them is really bad is going to help them.
Something they can't control, saying it's bad. How is that ever going to turn out well?
To someone.
There's no choices. There's no anything. It just is like, this is a problem. Your brown eyes, it's a problem. Awesome.
You need glasses?
Nothing I can do.
Oof. Right?
Right.
But when they get negative feedback so much, they think, I've had kids say, I hate my ADHD brain, and it breaks my heart. But if we can turn that around and say, what makes you special because of your ADHD?
Totally.
There are really cool things about it.
Oh.
And kids don't know that. And I'll even say, man, I wish I could fix that thing. They hyper focus on puzzles, let's say. I wish I could think like that. That is so cool. Who are people you look up to that have ADHD? There are a lot of successful people out there.
That's what's unreal. I didn't understand that as a kid. And
Mhm.
now as an adult and as ADHD is becoming more of a common conversation, it's not everyone.
Mhm.
Whole lot of the most successful entrepreneurs, everything, they all have ADHD. And there's a
Yeah.
reason, there's a drive there, there's a creativity there. Huh.
What makes them successful is they have the competency. They have the skills to be able to get along with peers, to be able to stick with a task. They
Mhm.
had some luck along the way, but they also had some support along the way, you know?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this competence,
Because there's also a lot of
confidence.
people that have ADHD that are not driven CEOs. And I think there's so much of
Plenty.
plenty, a lot, and that
Yeah.
really struggle with all these things. And so
Right.
it's really how you support them.
So I guess giving them tons of support, which means taking care of yourself so that you're available to do that. But also, if a child is getting so much negative feedback, a lot of parenting or teaching philosophies are you give 5 positive to 1 negative.
Yes.
That's a general 5 to 1. But if a child's getting a lot of negative feedback, I would up that to like 9 to 1, which takes some intentional, thought like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
I need to remind them there are lots of good things they're doing. Here's something to work on. Then dial it back to 5 to 1 or whatever. They need to work on skills. They have to be able to survive in the world. But your relationship with them will last your whole life. So competence, confidence, that's where I go.
It's perfect. Last question I want to ask you. I guess it's two-part because first part being just share anything you feel like you haven't shared that you'd like to share, if there is something. The second part being is I want you to just answer the question and maybe just expand a tiny bit on there's a parent listening, super stressed out, super just throwing your hands up, don't know what to do. Is there hope for their child? That's the question I want you to answer for me.
Yes, there is hope. One for you, one for your child. Absolutely, there's hope. Now, finding that hope can be tricky. And I think where we find hope is in the people around us. Your situation may not change. Some people, ADHD can kind of soften as they get older, some it does not. But the people around you is something that you can draw hope from if you can find the right people. One positive adult in a child's life can make all the difference. And
Yep.
that might be you. It might be someone at their school. Who
Yep.
knows? But if you can find a support system, and there are people who will support you, you just
Yes.
have to
Find them.
sometimes be brave and ask for help.
Yeah. Even as adults, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adults and kids.
If you can find support for you, you're going to be okay. Your child's going to be okay. You can't grow something from an empty vine. Find support for you first. Then find a support team, cheerlead squad, whatever you want to call it, for your child. As a school counselor, I get to be the cheerleader. I love my job.
Yeah.
There's always someone. You just have to look, right? And ask. If that means asking one of us, I can send you in the right direction. But be brave. Ask for help. You'll find it. There's hope.
Thanks, Lindsey.
Yeah.
With our title, Love ADHD, the thought being that ADHD is always trying to give us messages. It's something that we can utilize, and we believe it's here to help us if we let it, trying to give us notes to help us be successful and learning to manage it. We just choose a random name out there. April's the mom, we're going to say today. Dear April, I know that you have a child with ADHD, and that is sometimes stressful and overwhelming because your brain doesn't work like theirs. And so it's confusing for you and it's frustrating at times and it's overwhelming and it's draining because it's just not what you know. And unfamiliar things can feel stressful. I want you to know that yes, I'm going to be with your child for life. And I also have big plans to help them become the best version of themselves, and that you don't need to be afraid of me, that you don't need to not acknowledge me, that you don't need to think of me as a problem, that I am just a different way of thinking. I can be a source of a lot of power for your kid. And if you look around and you look for role models for your child and you get the support you need, I think your child is going to live a life that you will look back on and be so grateful for the things that make them, including this diagnosis. Love ADHD. Lindsey, we've talked a little bit about speaking, and I know that you do a lot of parenting classes and you do some speaking engagements. I will put in the show notes your contact information. Perfect.
That's-
Awesome. Thanks for
yeah.
being on the
Thanks for
podcast
letting me be on.
and for talking parenting with it. We all need it. Until next time, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.